dear viewers, welcome to another episode of Ish and Hasi Vlogs. As you all know, our channel is all about sharing knowledge, which is the reason why we thought why not address a problem that is facing the world today. The biggest challenge that we have in today's world is the pandemic around us, which is the corona. Which is the reason why we thought it would be a good idea for people to get more knowledge about corona, the effects of Omicron and the variants from a simple perspective, which is the reason why we have this episode. We have one of the experts in the field, Dr Masoodh, with us, who will go ahead and explain to us in simple terms. We've got a list of questions that we have from the viewers. We will ask those questions to Dr Masoodh and hopefully get some answers that will help us in our effort to fight this pandemic. Just before we start, I just want to give you a brief introduction to Dr. Masoodh, which I will also include in the description below. Our doctor today is basically a qualified consultant orthopedic and joint replacement specialist who is trained in robotic and computer navigation, has had experience dealing with shoulder, knee and ankle arthroscopy and spine problems, and has also had experience working in Singapore for quite a few years. He is a member of the UK in terms of in addition to this, he is a UK fellow as well, and from our playing days, as I remember, he was a good bowler. I'm not sure whether he's continuing it or not. Hello doctor, welcome to the show. The first question we have for you is, what is COVID? In simple terms, is this something that is new, or is something that has already been there for years and it's just a flavor of it? The second question following on from that we have is, what are these variants? Now we keep hearing in the UK as well as in India, we've got the Delta variant and the Omicron variant. I'm not sure what's going to come next. How do these variants come about? Could you just explain? Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, Irshad. Thank you for inviting me over for this pep talk, if you will, on COVID. And I'm not an expert, like you said, just a doctor. And being a doctor, it's something that viruses and pandemics and diseases are something that we read about as we train. So COVID is a disease caused by a group of organisms called viruses. Okay, right. So we have bacteria, we have so many different small microcellular things that can cause diseases. So viruses are one such things. Viruses have different families, just like maybe we have dogs, and then you have different breeds of dogs. So like that, even viruses have got different families. So COVID is a disease caused by a group or a family of viruses called the coronavirus. And it's called corona now. I mean, it's been 2 years into the pandemic, so almost everyone knows that corona means crown. So it's like this particular virus, when you look at it, it looks like it's spherical and it looks as if it is coated with this crown all around it. Oh. So that's why it's called coronavirus. Okay, so now this causes respiratory disease basically. So it affects the lungs. It enters the body through the nose and then affects the lungs. I mean, this COVID-19 is not the first disease that coronavirus have caused. We have had the SARS epidemic in the early 2000s, and then we have had the MERS a few years ago. So all these were also caused by coronavirus, and this particular coronavirus is called the SARS-CoV-2 to differentiate from the first SARS virus that happened in the early 2000s. So basically that is what COVID is. Yeah. And your second part of the question is about the variants. So variants, these, like I said, these coronaviruses have got a coating over them, and these coatings have got certain spikes over them that give them the crown look. Okay, so these spikes are actually proteins which help the virus enter into the body, or enter into the cells of the body. So it's like it's like the person covered with his clothing, and this clothing has got spikes on it, and this helps. These spikes are actually keys through which you can enter into the house or something. And these viruses keep changing their dress, if you will, frequently. So once there is a sufficient change in the look of the virus, in the number of antigens or the spikes on the virus, then you can classify it as the variant. So we have had the Delta variant, which was the last major one, and now it's the Omicron, which has got a lot of mutations or changes in the outer structure, so it's almost like a totally different variant. And now we have the IHU, the new kid on the block, if you can call it that. so these are the variants, and because these spike proteins are the ones that stimulate the antibody or the immunity against the virus. If there's a wholesale change in the spike proteins, then what happens is the body cannot recognize it and fight against it as fast as the virus has changed. So that is almost like an entirely new virus coming and affecting the body. And so, your body needs to get trained to that and start producing antibodies to that particular virus. And so that is why these variants are of concern, because they can start afresh.
Yeah. So, thank you, doctor. Thank you for that. That was a good introduction. I quite like the analogy that you put in terms of comparing it to a dress, where you say it's a different dress when it comes to the different variants. So, just so I understand it right, you've got the Delta, which is again a dress, and then you've got the Omicron. So, how does a variant actually change its dress? On the basis of what does the dress change?
Yeah, so like I said, the spikes on the outer surface of the virus are the ones that cause the disease and help the virus enter into the cell. So the number of, so it's got a lot of spike proteins all over it. So if these spike proteins change significantly, and this can be because of mutations. Okay, mutations, the structure of the protein or the spikes on the virus changes. And if it is just a mild change, the body can still recognize the virus and fight against it. But if there are many changes because of these mutations, then the body has difficulty in recognizing that this is the same virus that you're fighting against.
And the mutations, as I understand it, is the ability to multiply and take different...
No, mutation is the change that occurs in the genetic structure of the virus. The look of the protein or the spike on the virus.
Okay. Thank you, doctor. The next question we have is about the vaccines. As you know, we have different vaccines available depending upon whether we are in India or the UK. Like, for instance, I took the Sputnik one while I was in India, and then when I came here, I was asked to take the Pfizer one. Likewise, my wife took the Covaxin. The essential question for our friends in India and other countries as well is, how effective are these vaccines?
Okay, so vaccines help by producing these antibodies that I talked about. Antibodies are the soldiers, if you will, in the body that can go and attack the virus. This thief that is coming on with different clothings. So these are the soldiers that go and recognize and fight against it. So antibodies can be produced naturally in the body in response to any infection. So say if a person gets coronavirus, this COVID disease, the body is capable of producing antibodies by itself. Okay?
I'm sorry to interrupt, but like for instance, if someone has a cold, the body automatically develops antibodies, which is the natural immune system to fight against it, right? That's what.
Correct. Exactly. So, but in cases like these, in a pandemic or something, or patients who do not have the ability, for example, they are very sick. They've got some diseases like diabetes, or they're having an immunocompromised state, or they're taking medicines that reduce their immunity, for example. So these people cannot produce antibodies in sufficient numbers to fight against the disease. So it is important that we give them some support to help them make these antibodies. So vaccines do exactly that. Okay, so the vaccines help the body produce these antibodies, and they do it in different ways. Okay, so it's like giving a code or a method to the body to produce antibodies. And different vaccines have different ways of doing it. So let's not go into the details of how each and every vaccine does that, but basically it's just different ways of making something.
Yeah. So basically,
so Sputnik may have.
Yeah, in layman's terms, if I have an enemy which is coming to fight against me, and I have an army, but my army is not sufficient, I can supplement the army or increase my force by through the vaccine, right? Something like that.
Yeah. So it's like giving your army a picture of this thief and telling them that this is the thief that you're fighting against.
Okay.
And then they learn to recognize this thief even before the thief has come into your house or into your country, whatever. Yeah, so it's making you prepared earlier. So it's different ways of doing it. Each vaccine has a different way of doing it. And because there are different ways, some ways might be better, some ways might not be better. And the side effects might be different. But ultimately, having any vaccine is better than having no vaccine at all. And that is what all the studies across the world tell us.
Okay. Thank you. So following on from that, one of the bits that we face now is, okay, if you've got this new variant come through, please go ahead and take a booster jab. The question a lot of us have, is we kind of get tired listening to booster jabs, having to think, is there going to be an end goal in sight, or we are going to be having to take booster jabs throughout our lives? What's your view on that?
So booster doses, we might need it for as long as this pandemic lasts. Maybe later on we might have to take it for a few years. We might have a yearly vaccine or a half-yearly vaccine. We do have yearly vaccines for certain flus. For example, the swine flu, we have these yearly vaccines, which we in the healthcare industry, we take it every year, but maybe the general population doesn't know about it. So they just worry that, why do we have to take these vaccines and so on and so forth. So, but for people who are working in the healthcare industry and people, like I said, who are already having certain diseases, which makes them more susceptible to these diseases, they have been taking flu vaccines every year. Okay, so till as long as it is required, till the vast majority of the population is vaccinated, and this ceases to be a serious health concern, I think we might need to take boosters.
Right.
Can I just add on to this? The faster we get people vaccinated, the faster it is that we will be able to eliminate this pandemic. Because the way these mutations, like I told you, right, the vaccines keep changing their dress because we give them a lot of fertile soil for people to for these viruses to mutate and grow. So mutations occur when viruses replicate or where viruses multiply. And the more number of unvaccinated people there are, the more people there are for these viruses to go and stay and multiply in. And if you vaccinate the vast majority of the people, the less the number of people for these viruses to go and multiply. So when they multiply less, the chances of having these mutations and hence these deadly variants is much lesser. So that is why we should need to vaccinate people faster.
Thank you. So in terms of age groups, we've noticed, based on what we've seen in the past 2 years, that this tends to affect people with pre-existing conditions or people who generally are older in age. How do you think this impacts people in different age groups? What's your view on that?
Age group wise, what we have seen is the old people are much more susceptible to this virus. Maybe it's because they have a lower ability to produce antibodies. They have a lower immunity in that sense, and kids have a maybe stronger immunity. The details, the finer details, we still don't exactly know because what we have seen is that kids are usually more susceptible to respiratory infections. But for some reason, initially at least, we saw that kids were not that susceptible. But having said that, kids also are getting this disease, and they've got some severe inflammatory reactions also to that, because of which kids have lost their lives also. So let us not be very, relaxed, thinking that kids are not susceptible. So whenever the vaccines do come up for the kids, I think we should start doing that also.
Right. Now, following on from that, we know we've got the vaccine, which is primarily important to take as long as you can take it. In addition, we are also observing in UK and in India this bit around making sure we have good hygiene, sanitation, and also observing social distancing. Do you have any other recommendations to add besides these?
Yes, as of now, I think vaccination itself is a big way of preventing coronavirus, and also masking up is very important. We see people not wearing their masks or not wearing the masks properly. So we have these people covering the chin alone, not their nose and mouth. So proper masking along with
It's
hand
become a
hygiene.
fashion thing as well in nowadays.
Yeah, and the type of mask you wear also has gotten.
Oh,
But I think any kind of mask, anything that covers your nose and mouth properly, should do. Yeah.
I was gonna ask, is there a preference to a particular type of vaccine?
Yeah, I think as long as it is approved by the local health authorities or the WHO, whatever, it should be okay. It's like, you have different. You talked about cricket, right? You might have different batsmen.
Yeah.
From different countries, which are good for a particular pitch or a particular type of bowling. But ultimately, what we need is to get the job done. So
To win the
vaccines,
match.
some might have, to win the match. So the thing is that some vaccines might theoretically might be better, or they might have had a better efficacy, but the conditions required for storing them and transporting them, their cost, all these might not be able to be, all these contingencies might, there might be a limitation with regard to the particular place that you're living in, your country or your government, or even the person might not be able to afford this.
Yeah.
So all these things all these limitations are there. So whichever is available in your local health center, I think just go ahead and get vaccinated. Not think into that is what I meant by not getting into the details, finer details, the nitty-gritty of whether I should get it or not. Any vaccine is better than no vaccine.
Yeah, that was great piece of information. Thank you. I think we've got a lot covered here in terms of the common questions. Any last bits of statement that you would like to make?
Yeah, I mean, the last point that we discussed, how to prevent this from getting worse, follow precautions and get vaccinated. I think that these are the two things that we need to keep in mind. Let us not get into the finer details of which vaccine is better or which is not, or should I get vaccinated or not. But just go ahead, get vaccinated. All your near and dear ones, people who haven't got vaccinated, I think you should encourage them to get vaccinated as soon as possible. As well as, like you said, washing hands and maintaining distance in public places. All these things are very important. Even simple things like following local government guidelines. Like in India, we have these mini lockdowns and stuff. So for example, they say that on Sundays you should not go out, venture out unless it's absolutely necessary. But we still have people going around and not following social precautions that they should be doing.
Yes.
So I think the discipline that needs to be there should be there. So discipline has to come from within for each and every person. You cannot expect the government to come and enforce it. Even though the government can do it, I think it's better that we keep ourselves in a position where the government doesn't have to come and do it by force.
Yeah. So there you go, viewers. Hope you've enjoyed that session, which was a good introduction on COVID and Omicrons from Dr. Masoodh. Hope you've benefited from it. And our aim is to basically bring across to you more videos like this, which help us share knowledge, particularly around the issues that we face around us today. If you have any particular topic in mind, please do let us know, and we will try to collaborate with the industry leading experts in order to bring you useful and informative content. As always, stay safe. See you in the next video.